Everything's coming up greener.
Here's Harold Matthews. He is
The Garden Doctor. The Garden Doctor.
Hello, everyone. We used to say hello, Connorsville. We
Yes,
used
we
to
did.
say hello, the surrounding area. Now we have to say hello, everyone, because we are out there, and I really mean that.
No,
We
you're
are out there.
way out there.
This is the Garden Doctor. This is Mrs. Garden
Yes,
Doctor.
hello.
And we want to welcome everybody that's watching in the surrounding areas and wherever.
Yes.
We want to invite you to call in. It's the live show tonight, the fourth Monday. And if you have a friend that is some other state or whatever, have them go on to localtv3.com.
Yes,
and they
we
can
are
live stream us.
Streaming live and watching live right now, and so that means I get to make a couple of announcements for you.
You certainly
don't
do.
I? Okay, well, one thing we want to announce is our youngest son is getting married this weekend. He and Lindsay are tying the knot, and we are so excited. We could not ask for a better addition to our family and future daughter-in-law, so we're very
Looking forward to
excited.
that.
Yes, we're
Looking forward to that.
forward to that very much. Also tonight, I would like to say hello to Marcy. I believe Marcy and her husband Rob, maybe their kids, are watching from New Jersey. When I went out to New Jersey,
All the way
all the way
out
to
to
New
New
Jersey.
Jersey.
I met a friend of a friend who was so gracious and inviting to us when visited while we were out there. Want to make sure I say hello to them. Thank you, and I hope you are watching tonight.
And I believe
on
that we're being
streaming
watched
live.
in New Hampshire and possibly even Arizona,
Yes.
Texas, because we do have friends around the
I think
country
my
here.
father's watching.
I think
Usually,
if-
you know.
if he, yeah,
Yeah,
if all
parents
goes
have
well.
to watch for their kids.
I want to start off talking about the frost. The frost that we had last night.
The
was,
frost we didn't have.
Well, we actually did.
Oh, okay.
I did some investigation of my own, and I found that everything that was 5 feet off the ground, that was delicate, like the impatiens and the ferns, some of the more delicate plants that were suspended, that were up in the air, that were unprotected by trees, out where they were exposed. The tops of them did get affected. I checked some tomato plants that the tops of were affected, and I checked 4 or 5 homes where nothing was affected, and mostly those were the ones that had overhang. If you want to extend your gardens, if you want to extend the life of your annuals, we oftentimes get an early freeze or frost, and all you have to do is just cover your plants just for that period of time. We used to use sheets. They work very effectively.
Yeah, just anything during the overnight when it's going to get that cold.
Anything except plastic,
Right,
because
okay.
plastic will convey the cold down
Yes.
through. And they actually make frost and freeze covers that
Okay.
are specifically designed to not allow the frost to penetrate. Another thing that you can do is turn your sprinkler system on. If you can turn it on at 4 o'clock in the morning, or set a timer for it to come on at 4 o'clock in the morning and run until about 8 or 9
That
o'clock.
way they'll remain wet and yet not get a chance to freeze.
They stay at the
Okay.
temperature of the water.
Gotcha.
So if the temperature of the water, of course, is above freezing,
That makes
then
sense.
the water will protect the plants and prevent the frost and the freeze from settling in.
And I think I told you we did once before. I had said that in Florida, I believe that's what they did. If it was going to frost at night, they turned on the sprinklers over all the orange groves. You'll see the interviews if it freezes, gets cold down there, and it coats the fruit, I believe, and
With ice sometimes.
With ice, or they could just run the sprinklers all night, and that's what helps.
And it
protect
does
them.
decrease the damage.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
not going to work if you're using it on tomato plants. The freeze will actually do the damage. We, as always, when we have a caller come in, we go directly to the
We
lines.
stopped talking right away.
And
yes.
we're going to go to the caller. You're on the air
Hello.
with the Garden and Mrs. Garden Doctor. What can we do for you?
Hi. Are you there, caller?
Yes.
Hello.
I had a question for the doctor.
Here
Uh-huh.
he is.
Our son built him a house, and he's putting a new yard in.
Uh-huh.
Kind of in the woods, like he's cut trees,
Yes?
and he wants to know what kind of fertilizer to use.
The fertilizer is not as important as the seed. He wants to definitely, if he has a woods that there's a lot of trees still left in the woods and the light is very poor, he's going to have to use a fine or chewing fescue and mix it with a couple of other fescues in order to get a good coverage, because bluegrasses just won't do in a woodsy environment.
So this is a cleared area that's going to be seeded with grass to be lawn?
Yes,
Oh, okay,
And
nice.
I would two things I would check very carefully. First off, if there are any beach in that area, and they have disturbed the ground at all around the beach, or there's going to be traffic over them, or there already has been traffic over them, it's not really a good idea to leave them standing and build a house in the close proximity. Beech will normally die within 5 years of disruption around the trunk. So any root structure change whatsoever or compaction of the root structure can cause a problem with the beech. And another plant is a walnut tree. Walnut trees put out a gas that prevents anything from growing around it, including grasses. So underneath a walnut tree, growing grass is not really a good idea. But let's say that, to answer your question, that he puts down the fescues, which are the best grass seed, and he uses a slice machine to put them in so that and you can rent them at the local rental places. That it actually.
Excuse me. What kind of seed is fescue?
Fescue is the finest grass. They've done a lot of hybriding and research, and the best grass seed and grass growth and color and vigor to go through a drought and to grow in the Indiana soils, to grow in these clay soils, is fescues. But you don't want to use just one kind. So you try to buy, and if you go into any of the local stores, you will.
Yeah, they call it like a triplex with 3 different seeds in it.
If you look on the list, you'll see 2, 3, sometimes even 4 fescues listed.
And some rye sometimes.
Sometimes there's rye to get quick coverage.
But he's not a big fan of the Kentucky bluegrass. It's not a good grower.
Well,
it
really doesn't do well in this area.
But you can buy what you're talking about in bags at the local stores that sell seeds or farm supplies.
Now, to answer your question about
Where's
fertilizer,
a good place to buy this then?
any of the farm stores.
Yeah, don't really say the store names, can
Well,
we?
the feed store, there's only one in Connersville, Fayette Feed. You can go to you can get it from the elevators. Most of
maybe Gilman's.
Most of the package stores like that, they would have bagged seed that would say fescue on it. Now he's right on the borderline, right on the edge of getting grass seed in too early and too late. He's too early for the fall seeding, and he's almost too late for the summer seeding. Summer seeding should be done by the 20th of September, and then fall seeding begins around November. And what happens is, if you put your seed in now, let's say that we get a hard freeze in 2 weeks, the grass will germinate, it'll grow, but it won't be strong enough to withstand the freeze, and you could lose all of the grass. So if you do put the grass in, and you can water it, like we spoke of earlier, turn the sprinklers on if you get a hard freeze, because you can lose all of your grass seed. I haven't yet answered your question, and that was what fertilizer to use in the woods. On new grass, I just get a basic farm fertilizer. Triple 12 is fine. Triple 13,
which is a granular that you spread, right?
I would definitely use a granular, and I like to cover the seed. I throw sphagnum peat moss, which comes in a big bale. Brown peat moss. We break it up. We put it over
like
the top.
Powdery when you break it up, kind of. Yeah.
And then you drag a rake over it, and that tumbles the seed in, and it tumbles the peat moss in so that it doesn't blow away. And you just pull the rake behind you after you've gone through and seeded. People tend to put too much seed down. Whatever it recommends on the package, if it says put this in 1,000 square feet, then you should cover that area with that much
Don't
seed.
overseed to where they're
Overseeding.
fighting each other for root
Exactly.
competition, right?
Overseeding is you just starve yourself. You starve the seeds. And
So
so
any
forth.
triple 12 type granular fertilizer
yeah.
should be
any,
fine for
any
that.
farm type fertilizer will do the
And
job.
it won't
fine.
burn up the new growth as it comes up?
I
or-
would strongly recommend a pH test. Tell him to get a real cheap pH test, and make sure that he reads in the level for growing grass, which is between 6 and 7, somewhere between 6 and 7. If it's lower than that, he may want to put on lime now and then do his seeding in the fall seeding, which is November. Because then you would have time for the lime to start breaking down and working in the soil. You can't grow grass if it's down below, if it's 5.5 or 5.5, down in that area.
It just won't produce.
Grass seed will not grow.
So what you're doing now, seeding for now, is actually for grass that will be next spring.
It'll grow this fall. If
Okay.
you're right on the line right now, you're going to put it in. It's going to grow this fall. It's going to winter, but
Okay.
if it gets enough leaf, it needs 3 leaves coming up out.
To be able to survive the winter.
Right, and that means the roots are deep enough if there's 3 leaves coming up out. And you don't mow it until it's very tall, and you want to use a sharp mower. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't even mow it until sometime late next spring.
And then it should winter well.
Should winter well, but if a freeze comes in, put the sprinklers out and let the sprinklers run from 4 o'clock until 8 o'clock, and that will prevent some of the damage.
Okay.
How are we doing?
Doing fine.
Okay.
He's given you a whole lot of information.
Yeah,
so-
it's seeding.
Well, that's a help. That's a lot of help.
Well, and that's the best case
Appreciate it.
scenario. If you can do all of those things, that's going to give your grass seed the best fighting chance.
Thank you very much for your call. We really appreciate it, and I hope I didn't
get the
confuse.
one thing written down. What you said to pull through with the rake.
Yeah, when you
Peat
put
moss.
when I put my seed down, I put it down with a slice seeder to put it in the ground a little bit.
Use a
Then I
machine.
put peat moss in the
It's
fertilizer.
the sphagnum peat moss, I think she's talking about.
No,
the
I put the sphagnum peat and the fertilizer on, and then I drag a rake behind me. Just walk
To
the
spread
lawn,
it.
and that tumbles it in so that the dirt and the peat and the seed and the fertilizer becomes jumbled up, and it won't blow away that way. That way you're protecting your seed, your peat moss, and you're tumbling it just by dragging I usually use a fan rake, a metal fan rake, and just pull it behind me.
And then you water after that?
And then I water it well after that, but not to the point of runoff, about every 3 days for about 3-4 waterings, and then let Mother Nature take care of it from there.
And I have another question.
Okay.
myself.
Go to it.
I sowed some grass seed. Sowed it, and then I put just raked the rake through it enough to kindly cover the seed a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And then I put straw on it. How long do you leave the straw on it?
We don't take the straw off. I mow the straw with a mulching mower.
Okay.
And then I just chew it up, and it becomes part of the soil. It actually increases the value of your soil. So we don't take it off. But instead of straw, that's what you're doing with the peat, and then you put straw on top of that after you're sure you've got a good seed bed coming up. You can throw a little bit of straw on it to keep it from eroding.
Well, then you wouldn't want to mow then till the grass is poking through the straw?
I don't mow until the grass is 6
Tall through
inches
the
tall
straw?
and starting to tip
Oh,
over.
okay.
When it
Is
starts
it up
to,
about, I'd say half an inch or maybe an inch.
okay, well you're in good shape because yours will be tall enough before the freeze hits.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good,
you're in good
good.
shape.
Okay. Well,
Thank you for your call.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a
great
wonderful
night.
day. Now it's turned over to you, Mrs. Garden Doctor. I
Turn
got
it
to
over
rest
to
my
me.
voice.
Okay, well, I have some questions from the street. That's right. I've gotten some questions. People have come to me and asked me different things on the street about what to do about different plants. Now, I have to tell you, I am not the expert that my husband is about plants, but I will either ask him.
She's the one with the degree. I'm the one. She has a degree in earth science.
This is
so
true.
let her fool you.
I do have a college degree in earth environmental science. So However, again, questions from the street. You see, it gets me all mixed up. If I don't know the answer, I'll say I don't know, and I will try to find out. The wonderful ladies, Linda and the girls down at the Senior Citizens Center, asked me, I forget which one of them exactly, asked me about a plant that they have. It's a house plant, and they called it a lucky bamboo plant. And I wasn't familiar with it, wasn't sure what it was. She said it was in gravel and water and thought it needed to be transplanted or upplanted. What should she do with it? Well, I came home and did some research for you and found out it's called a lucky bamboo plant.
And she really didn't have to do any research because in the house.
Wait a minute. Once I did the research, I realized I have one of these in my house.
I got her one.
And
I bought one.
The only reason it's not dead is because it only requires water. It is in a vase of water.
That's why I got it for you,
So I actually have one of these and didn't even know it. It didn't know that's what it's called.
It can be ignored for months and months.
It says
just like your husband.
If it's in rocks and gravel in that type of base in a pot, if you want to transplant it, it's gotten bigger. It likes to still be in a tight area, so only go 2 inches bigger on your pot, and you just dump it out of there. Kind of clean out the roots, whatever, and then reassemble some new rocks and water. Reassemble it, put it back together, and keep water in it. I've actually printed out the information I found for you. It is possible to plant these in dirt, but it has to be very
leave a lot of water.
well draining soil that almost completely dries itself out. So I will actually drop this off to you by the Senior Citizens Center, and I thank you very much for your question. I love going in there to the thrift store and poking around down there. So
and before we get too far into the show, I want to make sure that we go to the remote because it's very important information. My whole family is very involved in the outdoors, and we're all hunters, and we spend a lot of time out walking in the woods, and we were quite disturbed when we started getting reports and finding ourselves that there were deer that were dead and being found in different areas.
Carcasses
all around Fayette County. As a matter of fact,
unexplained on.
You'll see in the outtake there that there was a number reported, and there's even more than that we found since then, and have reported to the wildlife biologist, which is what all of us need to do. Now, there's no reason for panic or anything. It's not global warming coming in and killing all the deer.
But we need to know.
This is a disease. It's something that's been here for a long, long time. It's just more prevalent now, and
because of the mild winter again.
Well, mild winter, it's the drought enhanced it a little bit, and because of the insects and all that stuff. Forrest is going to tell you all about it here in a minute.
Well, good.
But I wanted to reiterate that there is no health risk to people. That can't be transmitted from the animal to the person. Whether you consume the
research on that as well.
The deer meat, or if you're in the close proximity.
Yes, you can even eat the meat.
If you find one, if you see a deer that you think that has this condition or that has succumbed to it, it's a good idea to email the wildlife biologist. So we're going to go to the
let's do
remote.
that. We're going to show that now. Let's.
It's all up to you guys.
My family has always been interested in the outdoors with landscaping and so forth, but we've all been hunters. My father was a hunter. He was a guide through Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, up into Canada. He guided all over the place, and it's part of our history, part of our life. And my son shares that interest, and he also shares the interest in the game that we pursue. We are stewards of the land, and we have to not just take a weekend off and go shoot something, but actively get involved in what's going on with with this wildlife. Forrest, what is it that you have your research has found out? In the first place, what prompted this? What made you first get interested in what this disease is?
It was taking numbers of deer away from the herd through Indiana and the surrounding states, and I just heard a disease was coming to the state, which has been here since 1950s and earlier before that, but the first time they actually recorded it was in the 1950s, and now it's just we don't have harsher winters and stuff, so it's coming on us a little bit tougher. So I want to do some research on it and let everybody else know about it. It's an EHD virus, and it's a virus that basically shuts down the system of the deer, and it basically kills them within the week, with weeks, hours after they get infected with it, and it makes them, their tongue go blue, it makes them runny nose.
So this is the disease, or similar to the disease, or is it blue tongue?
It's a similar disease as blue tongue. The only difference is that in the research that we have found is that the blue tongue takes 3 days and this takes 7.
Yeah, that's not much of a difference, but the symptoms are about the same and everything. How is it transmitted?
It's transmitted through a little gnat called a midge. It's the midge gets the disease, and then it's just transmitted on through there. So
this midge, where do you find them?
Damp areas, water, sand, just
low-lying areas like swamps and so forth like that. So an infected deer comes into this environment, and that deer is bit by the midge, and then the midge bites another deer, and then they succumb.
It just carries right on through, and the deer will die, and then after, as soon as the freeze starts, though, the midge dies out, and you don't have to worry about the disease. So when deer season comes, it should be all right, and no matter what, if you cook your meat thoroughly, it's not going to harm humans at all.
So this has no effect on humans. It is not transmittable either through the consumption of the meat or from the association with the animal.
Yes, you have no harm. Humans have no harms. Basically, very, very few instances where livestock had any of this or anything. So it's basically just white-tailed deer, and the deer family is the only ones that's getting it.
So how much, what has been reported by, you've got a lot of buddies that tromp the woods like I do, and you guys are out, you and Frenchie, who happens to be behind the camera, Josh French, and he's going to be joining us later. How many have you guys found?
Between me and probably 5 buddies, we found roughly 26 deer, and that's mainly in around Franklin and Fayette County, next to the lake. So
they've been you find these in streams and waterways and close to water primarily, because that's where the insect is, and also once they get infected, this comes on very quickly. It dehydrates the animal, can't drink, it can't eat, so it emaciates them, dehydrates them, and then they die very quickly.
Yes, and another thing is if you come on a deer and it's acting weird, it's not scared of you, it's just looking at you, scouting through the woods before deer season, there's a good chance that it could have the EHD, because it shuts down their system, and they're not scared of humans. They don't worry about nothing. It's just they're there, and then the
disease takes over, and the fever, I guess, is more than they can handle. Well, I want to thank you very much for joining me, Forrest. A matter of fact, I'm looking forward to doing a segment on hunting later on in the season. We're going to do one about regulations again, like we did before. At least we're hoping to, and I'll look forward to you and Josh over here joining me. We're going to move on to Josh here. Thank you very much. Hello, we're back again, visiting now with Josh French. This is a longtime friend of the family's and of my son Forrest, one of his hunting companions, and they've both been out and spent many hours tromping through the woods. And Josh is going to add to what Forrest has told us and cover the what it is you do when you come upon a dead animal in the woods. Not necessarily a dead deer, because you could come on, a lot of animals just die of natural causes. And there are animals that die of diseases. There's rabies and so forth, and foxes and raccoons and skunks and things of that nature. So it's possible when you're out roaming the woods, you could come on to a lot of dead animals, not necessarily ones that were shot. But what do you do if you come upon a dead animal in the woods?
Well, the first thing you would do is contact your local DNR to get a hold of your wildlife biologist. And if you have a cell phone, you can take pictures. If you have a GPS system on your phone, you can locate where you were at when you found that animal. Like you said, it don't have to necessarily be a deer. And there's a lot of things with it that when you find them, if it's located by like a body of water, put that in there. Let them know where you found it at, what area you was at when you found it. If the river or the creek has a name, let them know where it was at. Because sometimes you may see a deer or any kind of animal alongside the road, and but your basically thought is that it was probably hit by a car.
And that's probably true. If it's close to a highway, that is a possibility. But even so, it's probably a good idea to mention it in an email to the wildlife biologist that you found this or you found that. Now, when we hunt the lake a lot, and they have these cards there. Do you fill the cards out and everything when you hunt? There's a plate you can go on the back of that and in a report.
Yeah, you can. They got different areas at the lake. It's got a sign-in box, and they got cards in there, and you can write on there that what area you was in and where you found it at, and that way when they go collect them cards, they'll have that information there.
Yeah, because the wildlife biologist in your area is only one person, and they're covering a massive area, and they need everybody's eyes and ears. We're stewards of the land, and we need to report what it is that we find in the woods, so that they can make more intelligent decisions and be aware of things that are going on. Now, what should you not do if you find a dead animal?
You shouldn't touch them with your bare hands. Like if it's a deer, say if they had ticks on them, a tick could bite you and give you Lyme disease.
Well, it could give you Lyme disease. Yeah, it's very rare still, but that is a possibility. Yeah.
You don't want to touch any kind of dead animal with just your bare hands. You want to stay back away from it a pretty good distance.
Yeah, and close enough to take a picture, identify some characteristics, like if the tongue is swollen or if you see something else that you can identify as what the problem was. Normally if this animal was hit by a car or something, wherever the wound is, that's where the scavengers, the coyotes and so forth, will start eating at. So look at that location where the coyotes have started to feed, and you might find what the cause was. But again, approach with caution any dead animal and report it to your wildlife biologist. Thanks a lot for joining, Josh. Hope to see you in the woods, and we look forward to seeing you on an upcoming program about wildlife regulations. You better do your studying, though. Make sure that you can answer all the questions, because I'll fire some at you. Thank you again for watching. Now back to the studio.
Hello and welcome back. Mrs. Garden Doctor's here. She's got all kinds of things on her agenda.
That was great. Did you see that segment? You guys did a
fabulous
see a job.
Nope,
wow.
Didn't see a thing. And thank you, Josh. That was Josh French and Forrest Matthews, the one that's getting married.
Yay.
They did a very good job. Very nervous, very nervous. You talk about somebody nervous. Josh was quite nervous.
Was he?
he did a very good job. Now, again, we don't want to scare anybody. It's not something that conveys to humans. You can't get it through eating the meat. There's no reason not to go deer hunting this fall. The first hard freeze wipes it out, or the first frost, a hard frost, I guess, wipes out the midge, so the disease is done. Usually about 7 days after that. And it's something that we've been living with since possibly back in the 1800s. Well, okay, and we may hear more about that at the next show.
Information is everything. So
there you go. And if you see anything that's unusual in the wild, report it to your local wildlife biologist. They need our eyes and ears.
Somebody had said they had seen a deer that looked funny. It just laid there when they walked up on it, and they approached it and laid there. And come to find out, that it was in fact a sick deer. So.
What do you got, woman?
Well, I got another question from the street. Let's get to that.
Fire it away.
Okay, this one is for Ron. You know who you are. I don't like to use last names on the air, but
Her name is Matthews.
Yes, definitely Matthews. You had spoke to me and shown me a plant that you have. You're using it as a house plant. I know this one well from Florida. It's a Norfolk Island. I thought that was the name when I spoke to you, and it is indeed a Norfolk Island pine. And most of you here would know them as a house plant. It looks like a pine, but it's really soft and feathery. Well, this thing has grown. It loves its conditions on his porch. However, he's going to have to cut a hole in the roof here pretty soon. So he asked me about propagating those. And you can't really divide that from the bottom, even though it is 3 or 4 stalks. The way that you have to propagate them, now some people did talk about doing it from cuttings, and they had some success, but the best probable way to do it, and especially that top part that's getting ready to go through your roof, there is a process called air layering. And what you do basically is you scrape off some of the bark at an area 8 to 10 inches down from the top. You wrap
or
that
even further if you want to.
Further, and I actually have all the information. I looked this up and printed it out for you, and I will drop it off to you so you know. And you cover, it's like a wound. What you're doing is you're wounding the tree in that space, and you're applying wet sphagnum peat moss. You're wrapping it in plastic. And you're going to keep that moist. You're going to poke a hole, maybe put some moisture in there, some water if you need to, and keeping that moist. And what you're forcing it to do at that wound is to grow roots.
You want to try to make this scar where there is a branch also. Prune a branch off.
It says, clear a section of branches and debris.
Right where there's a branch and then a section. And I used to take off 1/2 of the bark and even scrape the cambium layer, right?
It says scrape any of the slimy.
That's the cambium layer,
Yep, scrape some of that off. And they said it has to be at least as big around as your finger to do this process on.
The stem does,
no, it said a pencil actually. So
okay.
And in any case, I believe your tree had 4 or 5 or 6. So if you wanted to maybe try it on one of the lower ones first before you went cutting on, to attacking the top of that, or that's one way you can try it. You can try it as cutting it as a clipping. There's lots of information. I printed out some things for you also about some diseases of the Norfolk Island pine, what to look for, different things. You can also trim off those edges. You had a few of the fingers there that were browning on the end. You can just trim those off as well.
You can handle that pine too back by cutting the center growth that's coming out and reduce its size. So, tighten it up. And you want to use root tone.
Yes, that's explained in here.
Put root tone on the tree.
Root tone.
Okay, we have a caller. We're going to go directly to the caller so that I can, overpower her.
I will get you this information, Ron.
You're on the line with the garden doctor. What can we do for you?
Yeah, when did you get back, Granny?
When did I get back?
Well, yeah, Granny.
Oh, Granny! Oh, I know who this must be. Hi, Vernon. How are you?
Hey, that's me.
Is that who it is, Vernon?
Yeah, that's me.
That's the only one who called me Granny. He used to come in and he said, if I had a granny like you, I never would have left home. How have you been?
That's right.
You been doing okay?
Oh, not too good, huh?
Not too good.
No,
we don't like to hear that. Not at all.
It's good to hear from you. Now, you're not living out at your old house anymore, are you?
No.
No. Okay, I didn't think so. Because I'm used to seeing your car. I go that way often, and I would see your car in the garage when I went that way, and haven't seen it for a while, so I knew that you must have moved.
We hope. Do you enjoy our show? Do you enjoy the show?
Oh, I enjoy the show, yeah.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. And tell all your friends and make sure they all turn us on.
You got a gardening question for us, or you just wanted to call and say hello? I'm so glad you did.
I just wanted to call and say hello. I hadn't seen.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the call.
You said Granny. I knew who you were. Thanks for calling, Vernon. You take care of yourself.
Thank you. Now,
all right, bye, hon.
You were on, you got done with that.
Well, yes, I want to make sure I get that information.
Oh, this is fascinating about the marigold.
Yeah, see, I can't get a word in edgewise. He asks me a question and doesn't wait for the answer. Now, we have this argument at home, too. If you're going to ask me a question, you got to wait for the answer. You can't go on to something new.
Have at it.
Okay, well, I think that was my outside questions for the street. Oh, we went to this weekend. We took our grandchildren and Christopher, who co-hosted the show last month. Christopher, Jen, and the children, we went down to Batesville to the Apple Festival, which was very, very nice. All kind of street vendors, apple dumplings, which brings me to our next concern is about the condition and state of our apple crop this year.
Yeah,
let's
there was
talk
no
about
apple
that.
crop. And there's a reason why there wasn't an apple crop, and we'll get back to that in just a minute.
But
We
caller
have
first.
a caller.
Hi.
Hello, you're on the air. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I got a walnut tree in the yard. What do I do with the nuts? Is there any way to dispose of them other than just toss them in a ditch somewhere?
That's
You could cut the tree down.
Actually, they used to collect those and make them available. And there was people that came around and bought the walnuts. And I'm not sure if they still do that anymore.
Well, there used to be people who wanted them. Well, not even to pay you, but people wanted them. They would come collect them, or like cherries or whatever.
There's an actual process to. It's really a dirty process because the walnut, the material that comes off the walnut is really black and nasty. However, it's worth the effort to get the nut out of the walnut.
But you can't get anybody who really wants to sit down and do that for 3 hours.
Easy process,
so what do you do with them?
Well, I don't know. I would look on a Craigslist and see if there isn't somebody out there that's interested in walnuts. Because I just have to think that there's somebody that's collecting those and still processing them and selling the walnuts.
Well, again, though, like in our garden, we want to give, say, some tomatoes or what have you. They want us to pick them and bring them to them. If you want get somebody who wants the walnuts, they probably want you to rake them up for them, too.
And bring them in. But, that is a problem. Same thing with the cones that come off in a sweet gum. I planted sweet gum trees all over this town because I thought they were beautiful trees. And then 10 years later, here comes all of these sweet gum balls, and well,
with all of these green ideas and everything nowadays, maybe we should try to find something that we can do. What can be done with ground up walnut?
Eat them.
Can it be used as mulch? Can it be used as something to keep rodents?
You eat walnuts.
I know, but if you don't want to, then do you keep?
Well, you sell them to somebody who does want to eat them.
Rodents off of you. Well, a lot of times they're rotten and they're just fell off the tree and they're yucky.
You don't eat them.
So you grind them up. Are they any good to put around your garden?
No, they're terrible for your garden because walnuts will stop the growth of tomatoes.
So what are they good for? Let's come up with something.
I think you're going to have to put them in a ditch.
Well, I'm going to make a note and maybe I'll have some research next time.
We'll check on the walnut. Thank you very much for your question.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
What about acorns? Are those edible?
Yes, the acorn is edible. My family makes a dressing out of beech nut and out of white acorns, or acorns from a white oak tree. The white oak is the sweeter of all of the acorns, and you really don't want to get into a red oak or a bur oak because the tannic acid, which makes them very, very bitter, is much higher in the red oaks and the bur oaks and anything except white oak.
Well, you'll know by tasting them if you like them or not.
Oh boy, white oak is also much larger, so it's worth going after. But if you have a pin oak tree, it's terrible. They're little bitty acorns and they're very, very bitter. I've tried and it doesn't get any better.
Well, let's grind them up too and make something out.
Grind them up, yes. But the acorns are edible. And they have been used for a number of different purposes. But you have to wash them, cook them once, pour the water off, cook them second time, pour the water off if you want to get rid of the tannic acid in order to use them.
So much work.
With the white oak, you only have to rinse them once, let them set in the water a little bit, and therefore I eat them just the way they are. So white oak, if you can recognize a white oak tree, the nuts underneath that, when they're not full of worms, are very good to eat, and so are beech nuts. Beech nuts are one of my favorites. I love beech nuts, but they're just a little tiny diamond thing. You gotta break it open, but I still love beech nuts. They're delicious. Thank you very much for your call. Anything else we can do?
Nope, that'll do it.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it very much.
All right, well, let's get back to the apple business. What's going on with that?
Well, it's just we had that early season, and then the frost, and then we had the rain when it was supposed to be time for pollination, so the bees couldn't get out to do their job, and so everything was against the apple. Then we had the drought, so that what was there, the fruit fell off because it couldn't swell up because it had no moisture. So what is necessary is you have to have conditions so that the apple tree re-energizes itself for next year. So if your apple tree, if you have 3 or 4 in the yard and it didn't produce this year, and you want to increase the chances of it producing next year, you need to get out there, bore some holes down, put some fertilizer down in there. But not yet. The ideal time to fertilize would have been a while ago, but right now you can wait until about another 2 or 3 weeks up into the fall season, because you don't want to stimulate any growth. Okay, all you want to do is to fertilize, put the fertilizer down there so that it'll be available in the spring
for the tree. Okay.
Yes, and now we have another caller. We're going to go directly to the lines.
Hello.
You're on the air with the Garden Doctor and Mrs. Garden Doctor. What can we do for you?
Yes, I have a question, probably for Mrs. Garden Doctor.
Hello. Hi.
What kind of a plant is a good plant to have over the winter in the house so it's healthy to breathe and, you know?
Well, let's see.
That is definitely not a question for Mrs.
Hey now, wait a minute. I might know what you should have. Doesn't mean I can grow it, but I mean, as far as, easy and, produces oxygen, a lot of people have luck with spider plants. Right.
Spider plant is a very
It needs
good
very little light from a
basket.
bathroom window. They always look nice. They produce those little baby spider plants.
And by the way, plants are very important inside a house, especially in the wintertime. Extremely important. Pothos is a good one.
And I have
like
standard
spathiphyllum.
That's what I have, a standard spathiphyllum. Isn't that what?
It's called a white flag plant. You can
the peace lily?
Peace lily.
Oh,
yeah.
the peace lily. Okay, I'm thinking of a standard philodendron, that vine, that everybody has. I have one of those.
Philodendron is fair.
I can't kill it, so
yeah,
so far it's done well.
they vine out and they sometimes become a nuisance. But a spathiphyllum can grow in most environments. They can grow in shade in your house, and most people don't have enough sunlight in their house to grow a lot of the house plants that they purchase. You want to buy a plant that will grow in whatever place you're going to place it. So first, find the place to put the plant, and then find a plant that will work best in that place. And that's true whether you're putting a plant inside or outside your house. But she's right. The spider plant is
that's
great.
a pretty good. I haven't managed to be able to keep one alive, to be honest with you. I have this one thing that the lady asked me about, this whatever it was that's in a jar of water. I haven't been able to kill it yet.
The lucky bamboo.
The lucky bamboo, and then
that, by the way, is a very easy plant to grow too.
I have the philodendron in a little pot, the one that sings "Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head" when it gets too dry.
The only way that she will keep it alive is if it sings to her.
But yeah, I love a spider plant like hanging in the bathroom, and it has little tears that drops down. That's really nice. So try that.
And
is that a healthy plant?
Yes. They're green and white striped, the whole pot like that, and then they throw out little babies that are green and white striped. It's a beautiful plant.
That you can grow more of and more and more and more of.
And it does well in the house for most people.
And people seem to have trouble growing ferns in the house, which is a fantastic house plant.
I've seen that.
But really, it's very, very easy to grow a fern. You just have to have a tray under it and provide an environment of moisture for that fern to breathe. They like to be misted once in a while, and they like to set on a tray that has some rocks in it and then is full of water so that they're in a moist environment.
Yes, this other plant we talked about too, I would appreciate that instead of tray of rocks and water.
Yes, I
but
just
not where the
love a
plant
fern.
sits in the water where it could rot at the bottom. It's above the water. It's on the pebbles, and there's just water below for moisture.
I believe the fern is one of the highest in exchange of oxygen, carbon monoxide, and everything. I
Okay.
believe it is.
Yeah.
I'm not really positive.
Yeah, try
on
one
that,
of those Boston
Yeah.
ferns, but I'll tell you, one of my biggest problems is overwatering. I do think that is what I do, and now that I have this flower pot so I never water it. It's not something I'm always in my mind. Got to water the plant, water the plant. I never water it until it sings at me once in a while.
It literally does sing. When it
And,
dries out, the
yes.
electrodes go together.
Well, then I realized
And
that I would have watered it much more than that had I not, really.
Overwatering is a major issue, but always look to see what the plant that you're getting, what it requires, what
But
its
yeah,
needs
start
are.
easy. A spider plant would be an excellent choice.
And that's a very, very good question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for asking. I appreciate that.
Have a wonderful day. A lot of people are bringing their outside plants inside this time of the year, and before you do that, spray the plant outside with a harsh or harsher insecticide. Put some insecticide on the soil because you can have critters that you're bringing in that you don't necessarily want in your house. You may not see them. There may be they burrowed down into the soil, or perhaps they laid their eggs or whatever. But if you take care of it outside, you won't have to breathe those fumes inside. Now, if you want to use an organic, there's a number of them on the market. But in most cases, I recommend a good houseplant spray that is a fungicide, insecticide.
Before you
miticide.
bring it in, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Spray the whole thing. Leave it outside for 5 to 7 days so that all is dispersed and gone. If you have children or pets that might be chewing on it, then it's a good idea to wipe the leaves off with an organic leaf polish, and that will take off.
And a lot of plants themselves, ordinary house plants, are toxic if eaten by the simple vine, the help me again, I get confused. Philodendron vine that I have is toxic to animals and children. So I mean, you have to really know what you're doing.
You have to do a little research on that.
But there is a tree I want to ask you about.
Okay.
Okay. When I was in New Jersey and met the wonderful McNallys while I was there at their beach house that they were so gracious to invite us to visit, I happened to notice in Mrs. McNally's yard that she has a mimosa tree. And well, I asked her, I thought it was a mimosa, asked her, sure enough, it is a mimosa tree. Here, so as long as I have been married to my husband, every time we come down Grand Avenue,
30 some odd years. God.
he points to the mimosa tree there on, 8th Street, on the corner. It's planted in the
is that
strip.
8th Street? Or
I think it's the same street as the post office.
Yeah, it's
Or
by
9th.
that's right, by the
Well,
dentist.
anyway, the
dentist
mimosa
office
tree.
there, yeah.
And she was thrilled to death, Mrs. McNally, that I knew what the tree was. Oh, yes, that's my mimosa tree, and we talked about that. And
this is really not the zone for mimosa.
And that's
it should
the
not
thing.
grow here. And many times, these mimosa that are in Connorsville get killed all the way back down to the ground when we have a severe winter. But they come back from the root.
But they said that once they get heavily established, like apparently this one off of Grand Avenue, that it doesn't do that so much anymore. So
it minimizes it, but they still. I have had large
They don't
trees
come
die
back
all
to
the
the
way
ground,
back. But it would take a severe winter. We have a caller, so we're going to go directly
right to the caller.
lines,
Hello.
To the caller. What can we do for you?
Hey, I'm wondering, a friend of mine's got a peach tree that the wind destroyed half of it, and I'm wondering, could it still trim it up, or is it too late in the year to trim one up now?
The wind has busted the tree?
Part of it, some
Part
out
of
of it, yes.
No,
Wow.
it's not too late. Boy, I hate cutting down any trees.
How do you
I
heal
really
the
do.
wound,
Well, you may have to just prune off the damaged part. Prune back what is remaining because the tree is in shock.
You can't leave anything open that might hold water and allow rot.
Where the split is, you want to cut that off cleanly. Cut it as close as you can where it is broken off, and hopefully the stem that is left is strong enough to support the top that is there. If not, you can actually put a splint on it. We have done it before where we've put a section of wood up against the tree, taped it to it with tree wrap, and allowed it to heal itself and get strong enough so that it could support the top. Now, the thing about a peach tree is it takes you about 5 to 7 years before you start getting fruit on them.
Has it already been fruiting? Is it an older tree?
Yes.
Yeah. If it's already producing fruit, you ought to hang on to it for a little bit, and but prune it back some. Now, you probably will not have fruit next year.
Well, I was just kind of curious if he had any fruit this year, because I sure didn't. Did you have?
Yeah, it did. It had fruit this year.
You had peaches this year? Okay.
Some of the peach trees did well, but the apple trees did terrible.
I had no peaches, plums, any of that I had last year.
You had about 10 apples, but the deer got them all.
Oh, okay.
But yes, that peach tree.
If I have to replace a tree, what kind of a peach tree should I replace it with?
You want to, if you're only going to put one tree in, it has to be a self-pollinator. Or you'll have to put 2 for cross-pollination.
Oh, put 2. That's so romantic.
But if you put in just one peach tree, there's 3 or 4 varieties, and I'm not up on the new varieties that are out, so I would want to look that up. Stark Brothers has an online catalog that you can look at. There's 3 or 4 good quality fruit plant that you can order bare root.
But it will take a while, no matter what you plant, probably.
Some of the local nurseries have a pretty good selection of peach trees, but you want to get one that is definitely for this zone and this environment. We were just talking about that with the mimosa, and you definitely want to, if you do not get a self-pollinator, make sure that you know what the pollinator is, because you'll lose the tag. And as soon as you lose the tag, you'll forget what you have to get to go with it. So write it down, or if you're only going to buy one tree at a time. But I wouldn't give up on that tree yet. I'd prune it back, fertilize it, bore some holes in the ground, pour a little fertilizer in, just regular fertilizer, and prune off the damaged part, and see what you get out of it next spring.
Okay.
Thank you very much for your call. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you.
Now the mimosa that you were talking about.
Back to the zone thing, and I don't know if you can get in on any of this picture or not. I don't think so.
Well, if you don't dance around, hold it still.
I'll try. I'll hold it still. Yeah. But it's a beautiful tree. It's got a feather-like foliage. And it has a beautiful pink flower.
There's some on 21st Street,
21st
just down past Dom's there. I don't know what that next road is. What is that? If you turn left off Grand on 21st Street,
right?
Take the next right. I don't know.
How long have you lived here?
I have no clue. That house on the right is there's a couple of mimosa there. Then up on top of the hill, as you're heading to the Everton School. Everton, as you're going to Everton.
Why are they here? It says right here, they are in zone 6B through 9. Okay, now New Jersey, where I saw the mimosa there, they are in zone, they're actually 6. In a warmer zone than we are.
Because of the ocean.
Near the ocean, even though, why are they here and why are they thriving?
Well, because our climate zone is warming up.
But we're still not in a 6B.
No, we're still not in that 6B. However, many plants that are borderline can still be grown here if you put them in the right place. You were talking about the warmth of the building. Yes, it actually said here
that if you planted one of these trees next to a
something that holds
a concrete wall,
near a
concrete wall,
or structure, or a concrete wall, something that would absorb the heat and reflect it back.
And it says it is very drought tolerant, but obviously it has a deeper green color and is more lush given adequate moisture.
That's because its roots go down. Now, some places the mimosa can be a nuisance.
Yes, now that's the problem.
If you get further south, all of the seeds will germinate.
Every seed wants to germinate.
But up here where we are, we don't have that problem because we're further north.
Another thing it said is that mimosa vascular wilt is becoming a very widespread problem and it has killed many roadside trees.
Never seen it.
And it says it's intolerant, or it's less tolerant to heavy salt. So I'm surprised right there in the curve there.
That's
that
weird
doesn't seem to make sense,
where I know of 4 mimosa,
but you can find anything on the internet,
Yeah, they're getting sprayed. This marigold, this is what I want to know.
Okay, is this what you want to get to?
I want to know about the marigold.
Okay, we were watching a TV show.
Fascinating.
I do not remember what the show was, but it said
But
something.
it was on the little tube thing.
Yeah, it was a TV thing, which we've got a new TV, and it's like, wow, we never saw it. It's like seeing everything for the first time again. Okay, it said somewhere on this show we were watching that the marigold is a flower that represents grief, cruelty, and jealousy. And I thought,
death.
I had never heard this before.
Which is pretty gruesome stuff.
Yes. So I decided, okay, I'm going to die. That's very interesting because marigolds are everywhere. Well, it actually goes by that name, and at some point has in the past stood for grief, cruelty, and jealousy. But more interesting information about it also arose that it's actually marigold is slang for Mary's gold. It is actually named after the Virgin Mary is responsible.
Which is not death and grim and
no, but because of the death that she experienced and the only flowers that were involved, that it kind of went both ways, and it became a really good and yet very humble and sad experience.
Which would make sense because if it came.
But it's used. It's called. It's known as herb of the sun. Okay, and it says here, if believed if marigolds were not open early in the morning, then a storm was on the way. How about that? Yeah,
I like that very much.
It's also considered to be sacred among the Aztecs, who decorate their temples with the flower.
Wow.
And it can symbolize cruelty and jealousy. Interesting facts. The leaves of marigolds have been used to remove warts. Okay, they are added to chicken feed because chickens eating marigold-enriched feed produce eggs with a deep yellow color, and the flesh of the chickens who eat marigolds also take on a rich color, making them more appealing for us to eat.
Just like their feet are more orange.
I don't know.
Like to eat them?
It says the blossoms themselves are edible to humans, and they can also make a yellow dye for fabric. Now, they have started making them to where they're odor-free because people find the odor not palatable. However, that is what gives it its use in my garden is because it wards off pests and insects.
We plant marigolds everywhere around roses.
In between.
We try to use it in landscapes.
Definitely in the garden.
Definitely use it around tomatoes.
So I thought that was
basil,
interesting.
by the way. My son would say basil.
He said it on TV last month. I totally had to bust his chops about it.
Extend your garden. Make sure that you protect your garden so that you get that extra month, because the freeze and the frost shouldn't take your garden away. So cover it. Are there anything that you can plant now? Yeah, you could throw in some lettuce. If you can still find some cabbage plants, they go right up into the snow. I've grown broccoli up into November.
I'm
so
done
if you
gardening.
Protect them
I'm
with
gonna
a couple of things.
pick what's out there, and that's
fall
it.
gardening is probably going to be the best
Raspberries.
thing to do. Oh, raspberries are everywhere.
Oh, they're everywhere right now. That I'll get out and pick. Love it.
I want to thank Forrest and Josh for their efforts. One behind the camera, and they kept switching back and forth. And then Christopher.
And our new friends everywhere from the different counties that were being broadcast in.
We'd like a report
Ustream.
in, too.
Yes.
Email us or something.
Let
and
us
tell
know
us
how it went.
How this streaming business
And Marcy, if you guys are watching, hello to you and Rob and your children, your parents. Thank you again for a fabulous time.
And we usually get a countdown, but I have no idea. What do we got?
And
2
happy
hours left?
anniversary to Christopher and Jen, the one who did the show last month. He had an anniversary yesterday, and I had a birthday since I was here last. I'm now 48. Yeah.
You had a birthday?
I did. And
did I remember it?
My granddaughter had a birthday, the one who here was visiting. She turned 13. My brother and his wife had birthdays on 9/11.
Holy crap, you remember
I
all
know,
of this stuff?
yes, I do.
I have no idea
and
what
my
you're even talking
grandson
about.
James has a birthday coming up next month.
Listen, folks, we really, really appreciate you tuning us in. We appreciate every call that comes in. We try our best to answer whatever questions you might have.
I try my best.
And do it. And if we don't know the answer, we'll look it up the next time. Well,
yes, I will.
As in her.
As in me.
We'll look it up. And we really want you to tune us in the fourth Monday of the month. And thank you very, very much for watching.
The garden doctor.